in the hands of honest, patriotic people.
In support of the universal principles of truth, justice, and the eternal struggle for freedom for all people, this is the Global Freedom Report. You can be a part of the show by calling 866-870-5752. That's 866-870-KRLA. And now, the host of the Global Freedom Report, Brent Johnson.
They may take our lives, throw us in jail, steal our property, defame our character, but they cannot kill the truth. And for the next 2 hours, the truth is back in business. Freedom means never having to ask those people whom you have allowed to run your government for you for permission to do anything. That is the birthright of all Americans and all free people everywhere. On this show, I will help you to exercise your brain, to think and come to your own conclusions, rather than believe the propaganda and misinformation being disseminated by and on behalf of the United States government and the international globalists. This show is about truth, justice, and liberty. We'll also show you practical ways to live free in today's surveillance society and give you a good picture of how the globalist cancer is infecting the world and what you can do to stop it. Coming up on today's show, this is a different kind of show. Instead of having a special guest, I'm going to take on the role of teacher. I will educate you about your fundamental right to own property. Specifically, I'm going to teach you about common law pure trust organizations which wrap an ironclad wall of protection around your assets and completely protect your property rights. I will teach you how to protect your assets from attachment, liens, levies, and judgments. I will also answer your questions concerning ways to establish genuine asset protection for your property. That's all coming up on today's special edition of the Global Freedom Report, and you really don't want to miss this show. I want you to put together some notepads and everything because you're going to want to take notes. You can join us right now in our live chat room at www.globalfreedomreport.us or call toll-free from the United States and Canada at 866-870-KRLA. That number again is 866-870-5752 to go on the air. I want to tell you, I'm going to talk a little bit about it on the other side of the break, but when a member of my extended family is lost, it hurts me very, very deeply. I'm going to talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk when we get to the other side of the break. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back with tonight's edition of the Global Freedom Report. Stay tuned.
What if you could live free from government regulation? What if you could learn how to lawfully opt out of taxes, eliminate personal liability, and travel in your vehicle without Big Brother watching over you? The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation, reveals the truth about the American legal system, the U.S. Constitution, and shows how to protect your God-given rights. The American Sovereign provides information critical to all people who value liberty. This 250-page full-size paperback will change the way you live and teach you how to reclaim control over your life. The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation, is available through Freedom Bound International. Call them toll-free at 888-385-3733. That's 888-385-FREE. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us. The American Sovereign, How to Live Free from Government Regulation is the #1 book on sovereignty in the world. Get your copy today.
Welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. It is with profound sorrow that we mourn the tragic passing of Charlie Kirk following the horrific assassination attack at Utah Valley University. This was a cowardly and vile act of violence carried out to silence one of America's boldest Christian conservative voices. Our hearts are shattered for Charlie's wife, family, friends, colleagues, and the countless people whose lives he touched through his words, his work, and his unwavering commitment to faith and country. Charlie was more than a broadcaster. He was a fearless defender of truth and a faithful servant of God. This assassination was not just an attack on Charlie. It was an attack on free speech and on the values Charlie championed every day. His absence leaves a tremendous void, but his legacy of faith, courage, and conviction will continue to inspire generations. Charlie's partnership with Salem Media was defined by his uncompromising defense of biblical values, liberty, and truth. He epitomized Salem's mission to impact lives and communities by amplifying truth, faith, and self-governance through media. We are blessed to have worked with such a man as Charlie and to have watched him grow into the legacy he became. Salem Media extends its most heartfelt condolences to the Kirk family, Charlie's friends, and the millions of Americans and people across the world who are grieving this senseless loss. And let me say that I never met Charlie. I was looking forward to the opportunity of doing so because I've become a member of the Salem Media family as well. And so Charlie was part of my extended family. I'm very sorry I did not get to meet him. However, just everything I've heard and seen of him tells me that he was a man of spectacular and special qualities. And we will all be at a loss for him not being here. At the same time, please keep calm, keep sane, and do not stop standing for what Charlie stood for. God bless you, Charlie. May you rest in peace, and thank you for all that you have done for so many. After an estimated 233,000 children who crossed the U.S.-Mexico border alone during fascist pretender Joe Biden's tenure were lost, law enforcement has started to locate them, only to learn of the horrors they have faced. Since March, the President Donald J. Trump regime has tracked down 22,638 children, finding some in deplorable conditions, dead, and others being used as sex slaves. We found children who have been raped. John Fabricatori, Health and Human Services Office of Refugee Resettlement Senior Advisor, said, "We are talking about debt bondage, where children are being made to work off debt, trafficking debt. We are talking about children that were brought into situations and then treated like sexual slaves. At least 27 of those lost children have been confirmed dead, with causes of death ranging from murder, suicide, car accidents, or drug overdoses. Children are in horrific environments, just environments that they should not be in, where the sponsor is a heroin dealer and that child winds up dying of a heroin overdose," explained Fabricatori. These children are classified by the government as unaccompanied minors, underage illegal invaders who cross the U.S. border without a parent or a legal guardian. An uncle, older sibling, or other relative might be traveling with the child, however. The minor would be considered unaccompanied because he or she is not with a legal parent. Oftentimes, the parents were already in the United States and had saved up money to pay smugglers to bring in their children. In a heartbreaking video, a 2-year-old girl from El Salvador told the Texas Department of Safety, troopers who found her in November, that she was on her way to reunite with her mom and dad. While children have sometimes crossed the border alone, during the illegitimate reign of pretender Joe Biden, the number exploded alongside overall illegal invaders. Children were often arriving at the border completely alone, pushed over the border wall by smugglers who abandoned them. In another shocking case, a 2-month-old baby was found in Rio Grande City, Texas, by Border Patrol agents. This is a chilling reminder of how children are being exploited by human smugglers and criminal organizations every day. In one instance, 2 brothers were found at the Texas border, handwriting on their T-shirts with the child's name or the contact information of a relative in the U.S. Someone had written the contact information of family members in the U.S. on their clothing in marker. 470,000 children without parents or guardians crossed into the U.S. illegally between 2021 and 2024, according to government statistics. We have to stop this. We cannot allow our children and their lives to be destroyed by these evildoers. We're going to take a break. When we come back, you're going to get a crash course in asset protection and protecting your property rights. Stay tuned after these words.
You're listening to the Global Freedom Report. We'll be right back.
DOJA, the Department of Government Accountability. This is our citizen-led watchdog task force under American-made action. We're exposing corruption in child welfare, family courts, and unconstitutional federal programs like Title IV-E. The funding that is sifted straight down through the Health and Human Services Agency into the Social Security Administration and directly out to the agencies across 50 states that are responsible for the separation of children and families. And through lawful notices, federal lawsuits, and investigative media, DOJA is holding those rogue officials accountable, demanding transparency and restoring parental rights. We're not waiting for Congress. We're the people taking lawful action now. Visit AmericanMadeAction.org. Hit the Take Action button and join the reckoning.
welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. My question for you on today's show, is, what are you doing to make the world in which you live a better place? You know, we talk about all the people, the government, okay, the illegal aliens, the drug cartels, all the bad people. We talk about them. But what are you doing to make the world in which you live a better place? Now, freedom means defending your rights to life, liberty, and property. Now, life is up to you, your family, your friends, your associates. You need to watch each other's backs and protect each other's lives, because your lives are a gift from God. They are precious. They are priceless. Liberty can be protected by not entering into agreements to waive your God-given rights. Most of you have done that at one point or another, and we'll talk about that another time. But it is my belief that the first step towards truly living free, the way our founding fathers envisioned freedom, is to protect your property rights. And the reason for that is that if you ever stand up against the system and the system wants to beat you down, it will use threats of taking your property to make you behave, to get you to stay in line. Okay? If you protect your property rights, if you do it in such a way that nobody can take your property away, then when you do take a stand against the injustices that exist today, nobody will be able to threaten to take your property. That is what today's edition is all about. I'm going to teach you about pure trust organizations. You should make notes about this. This is a graduate school course, okay? And you're getting it at no cost at all. And people pay a lot of money for this. So I would like you to please pay attention and do not hesitate to take notes. And as we go along, if you have questions, by all means, call in and ask them. Let's start off with the legal definition of a trust, any trust at all. And by the way, I'm not an attorney. I don't give you legal advice. I am well studied. I have been working with these trusts for over 30 years, and I have a 100% track record. Okay, so understand that I know what I'm talking about, but I'm not an attorney, so you cannot take this as legal advice. I can tell you, however, the legal definition of a trust is a right of property held by one party for the benefit of another party. You go to a fancy restaurant, you give the keys to your car to the valet to park your car. That is what is called an implied trust. It is implied because it's not written down. If it was written down, it would be called an express trust. But it is a trust because that valet has control of the property, the vehicle, for your benefit. That's what it is. Now, you go into the restaurant, and the valet can now park that vehicle wherever he wants to park it. He doesn't have to come back to you and say, is it okay if I park it here, or do you want me to park it there? No, he has control. He's got the keys. He can turn on the motor, and he can take the car where he thinks it is best to park. However, while you're in the restaurant, what he cannot do is he cannot put the keys in the car, turn the motor on, and go cruising up and down the boulevard to impress his friends. He has the power to do it. He has control of the vehicle. But if he did that, it would not be for your benefit, and therefore it would be a breach of trust. Now, there are two fundamental types of trust: statutory trust or non-statutory trust. A statutory trust gets its existence by an act of the legislature. Congress or the state assembly got together and said, we're going to create this kind of trust. And statutory trust, which may do some good for you, they may give you certain protections. However, because a statutory trust was created by the act of the legislature, the legislature can change the rules governing such trusts. And there's nothing you can do about it. I'll give you an example. It used to be that certain types of trust that held real estate, okay, you could have this type of trust, and let's say, okay, you're the grantor of the trust, okay, and let's say that you have your children as beneficiaries. If something happens to you, okay, they take over beneficial interest in the trust. Now something happens to you, and they take over. There are no tax results from that transfer of beneficial interest. However, about a year and a half ago, the IRS decided to change the rules governing such trust. And today, similar situation, similar case, similar trust. The father dies, the children take over beneficial interest, and now there is a tax liability. The reason for that is simple. It's that the IRS had authority to change the rules governing that type of trust. That is a statutory trust. Whatever it does for you, the rules may be changed. A non-statutory trust is a trust that was created outside of Congress or any state legislature, okay, outside of government control, generally under common law, okay, and in particular, a pure trust organization, which we're going to discuss here, okay, is a common law trust that was created without involvement of the statutory world. It owes no duty to the statutory world, and the statutory world actually exists outside of the jurisdiction of a pure trust organization. Now, a trust can be revocable or irrevocable. A revocable trust is a trust in which the grantor of the trust can at any time revoke the trust and have everything, the trust goes invalid, everything reverts to the way it was before the trust was created. A revocable trust is always a statutory trust. Statutory trust could be revocable or irrevocable, but if the trust is revocable, it is always a statutory trust. A common law trust or a pure trust organization is always irrevocable, meaning that the party who is involved in the creation of the trust cannot revoke the trust, simply cannot do that. A pure trust organization is a common law trust, sometimes called an unincorporated contractual organization, or UCO. Plato is believed to have had a common law trust in the year 400 BC, but we don't have good records from back then, so we don't really know for sure. But I can tell you, the oldest common law pure trust organization of record in the United States was set up by Patrick Henry, Patriot Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. It was set up in 1790 for businessman Gouverneur Morris of Virginia, and the trust was called the North American Land Company, and it existed into the 1990s, over 200 years later, in some form. So that gives you an idea that pure trust organizations are not something I'm making up. They have been around for a very long time, longer than America, okay? And they have a long history in America. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we will continue this educational discussion on pure trust organizations. Stay tuned.
This is where the truth matters. The Global Freedom Report. Don't go away. Brent will return in a moment.
A common law pure trust organization is the most powerful asset protection device available. Pure trusts have been around in the USA since 1790, when Patriot Patrick Henry created the first one. Pure trusts establish ironclad protection for real property, vehicles, businesses, and just about anything else. A pure trust creates a wall of privacy over its assets, reduces personal liability, and protects property from attachment. Freedom Bound International has been creating pure trusts for over 35 years, and none of their trusts have ever been successfully attacked. Call today at 888-385 free. That number again is 888-385-3733. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us for information and applications for their Pure Trusts. Freedom Bound International, dedicated to the preservation of personal freedom, privacy rights, and the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Independence.
This is Ambrose Evans Pritchard, International Business Editor of the Daily Telegraph in London, and you're listening to the Global Freedom Report.
I will not make any deals with you. I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered. My life is my own.
You say you want a revolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world. You tell me that it's evolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. We are having an educational day. I am teaching you how to protect your property rights through the use of pure trust organizations, a common law trust. Now, there are those, many attorneys will tell you, these are bogus trusts. These are not real. These are not true. However, statutory courts recognize the legitimacy of pure trusts, and in particular, just so that you know, the Supreme Court. And there are a number of rulings. I just have a handful here that I'll share with you. Elliott versus Freeman, a trust is not dependent on statutory law. Burnett versus Smith, a trust is a legal entity. Schumann-Hank versus Folsom, if it is free of control by certificate holders, then it is a pure trust. Berry versus McCourt, a pure trust is a contractual relationship in trust form. Elliott versus Freeman, a pure trust is not subject to legislative control. The United States Supreme Court holds that the pure trust relationship comes under the realm of equity based upon common law and is not subject to legislative restrictions as are corporations and other organizations by legislative authority. And Crocker versus Malley, the pure trust derives no power, benefit, or privilege from any statute. And that is the real point there, that the Supreme Court recognizes the existence of pure trust and recognizes that a pure trust does not take anything from the legislative world, and therefore it does not owe anything to it, does not owe obedience to it. Now, the reasons for creating a pure trust organization, primary reasons, there are a number of them, but the most important are privacy, liability reduction, asset protection, and as a legal strategy. Privacy. A pure trust is a genuine private contract. If you're one of the parties to the contract, unless you tell somebody you have set up this contract, nobody knows. It's not recorded in the public record. It is a private contract, and it remains private unless you or one of the other parties to the trust reveals information about it. Liability reduction. Property owned by a trust belongs to the trust. If you put property into a trust, you become the beneficial interest holder of the trust, but you don't own the property anymore. The trust owns the property for your benefit. You're the only one who can benefit from the trust. If the property is sold, the assets can be distributed to you. Okay, but if property is in a trust, and let's say the IRS is coming after you for some reason, they can't go after the trust property because it's not your property. It simply is not yours. And therefore, the property is protected from attachments, liens, levies, and judgments that might be levied against you. Asset protection. Assets that are put into a pure trust have an ironclad wall of protection, and if the trust is administered properly, that protection is unbreakable. In 30 plus years I've been working with these trusts, I have never had a situation where a trust was attacked successfully. A number of times trusts have been attacked, and it's always been an unsuccessful attack. And as a legal strategy, simply because since the trust is a common law entity, it is not subject to statutory control. If somebody wants to go after the trust, they have to figure out how to do it. It's not just go to your local statutory court, because that court would ordinarily not have any authority over that trust. So it is a legal strategy. The inherent jurisdiction of a pure trust organization is common law. And as long as the trust does not do something to subject itself to statutory authority does not have bearing on the trust. And again, I can draw your attention to Supreme Court rulings. I'm not the one who said this. The Supreme Court has said this numerous times. John F. Kennedy had a cat. This is a true story. If you've listened to me in other venues, you may have heard it before, but it's okay. It's worth telling again. Okay. And my producer actually remembers seeing this story I'm about to tell you in the newspapers at the time. Now, if you're John F. Kennedy, you know that you don't want to have anything owned in your own name. The wealthiest people know that they are not to own property in their own name. It's a liability issue. And sure enough, the cat who was the subject of this story was not owned by Kennedy. It was owned by a pure trust organization, similar to the type of trust we're discussing today. And the cat was the only thing owned by the trust. One day, the cat scratched somebody badly on the face. The guy said, "I've been scratched by a Kennedy cat. I'll sue." So he did. He sued. He won the case. And he was awarded the cat. True story. Everybody laughs. But there is a moral to this story. If Kennedy had one of his mansions or yachts or Rolls Royces in the same trust as the cat, that could have been attached to satisfy the damage award from the lawsuit. But because the only thing that the trust owned was the cat, the guy got the cat. I'll tell you a second story, also a Kennedy story. Some of you may remember 1969, Senator Ted Kennedy and Mary Jo Kopechne. Okay, they were traveling across Chappaquiddick Bridge in Massachusetts. Kennedy was drunk as a skunk, and he literally drove off the bridge and into the water. Mary Jo Kopechne died. Ted Kennedy did not. After the incident, Kennedy was caught on video stumbling left and right. I mean, he could not stand up straight. Everybody in the world knew that he was responsible for the death of Mary Jo Kopechne. There was no question about it. Mary Jo's parents sued for the wrongful death of their daughter. The lawyers for the insurance people came to Mary Jo's parents and told them that they would give the parents $30,000 in settlement, but if they pursued the lawsuit, they would get nothing because Ted Kennedy owned nothing. Now, as it happens, at the time, Senator Ted Kennedy had in the public record something that he had filed or he had recorded called a notice of civil death. A notice of civil death is something that essentially means that the person it refers to cannot own property. So Ted Kennedy could not own anything in his own name. This was proof that Kennedy owned nothing. So Mary Jo's parents could have sued. They could have gotten a damage award for $50 million or $100 million, but they never would have collected on it because Ted Kennedy owned nothing. These two stories give you an idea of what happens if the less you own, the less your liability. If you own nothing, you have no liability. And if you have no liability, the evildoers in government who would seek to force you into their own way of doing things won't be able to threaten to take your property because you don't have anything. I live that way. I own absolutely nothing. And because of that, I carry no liability. The wealthiest people in the world know this. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to spend your life in debt. That's the way they want you to do things. But the wealthiest people in the world don't do that. There are four main parties to a pure trust organization. They are the exchanger, the creator, the fiduciary owner, and the protector. The exchanger is the party of the first part, who signs the trust contract creating the trust. The creator is the party of the second part, who also signs the trust contract with the exchanger, creating the trust. The fiduciary owner is the trustee, who holds title to the trust property and administers that trust property for your benefit. And the protector is there to protect your interest in the trust, to ensure that the trust always acts for your benefit. And if the trust does not act for your benefit, the protector has the power to fire the fiduciary owner and install a new one who will act for your benefit. Those are the main parties in a pure trust organization. In a statutory trust, they would be called the grantor, the settler, and the trustee. There is no protector in a statutory trust. But in a common law trust, it's exchanger, creator, fiduciary owner, and protector. And the exchanger is called such because what he does is the exchanger exchanges property into the trust and gets back the beneficial interest in the trust. So the exchanger becomes the first holder of beneficial interest in the trust. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more on Pure Trust Organizations. Stay tuned.
More about freedom and your phone calls right after this.
Freedom Bound International is a common law service center specializing in asset protection. For more than 35 years, they've helped people free themselves from government control. Their common law pure trust organization successfully protects property from confiscation, claims, liens, and judgments. None of their trusts have ever been successfully attacked. The Private Interest Foundation holds assets internationally, distributes funds privately, and does so anonymously. Their stealth LLCs let you set up banking as privately as possible. They offer books, CDs, DVDs, and a variety of products and services designed to teach you how to live free from Big Brother. Call them today at 888-385-FREE. That number again is 888-385-3733. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us. Freedom Bound International, dedicated to the preservation of personal freedom, privacy rights, and the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Independence.
Do you know what happens in the module? They burn living people. The category ones, they're still alive, but they're being burnt. This place is being built around institutional murder.
I'm not the one who makes the rules. Category ones are dead. That's the law. Under the emergency rulings, for the sake of public health, dead bodies can be incinerated en masse.
Well, I'm glad you've got the law on your side. But are you actually there? In the module, are you actually throwing the switch? No, you're here. You're nice and safe, hidden behind your paperwork. You haven't got the nerve to actually watch them burn. Because then you'd have to face the truth, wouldn't you? That this isn't a hospital, this is a concentration camp.
And you are one of the staff! The entire healthcare system is about to collapse. What else am I supposed to do?
You say no, that's what you do. For the love of God, you say no.
I can't.
Don't you dare look at me and tell me you're obeying orders. Don't you bloody dare. And one more thing. Don't call yourself a doctor. Not anymore. Shame on you.
Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Well, God, I know the enemy, right? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy? Well, God, I know the enemy, right? Do you know the enemy? Do you know your enemy?
Giving you a crash course in pure trust organizations, what they are, why they are so effective in protecting property. And this could be any property, real property, vehicles, businesses, whatever. Okay. Now, I told you the parties to the trust. And let me go back to those parties. The exchanger, that's the party of the first part. The property that is initially put into the trust is done so by the exchanger. So it's something the exchanger owns. The property transfer is not a sale, and it is not a gift. It is a trade. The exchanger trades property for beneficial interest in the trust. So now the exchanger holds the beneficial interest in the trust. And as such, the trust exists. Remember, a right of property held for the benefit of another. The trust exists to hold property for the benefit of the exchanger. Now, the exchanger can, the beneficial interest is embodied in 100 units, by the way. So the exchanger can decide to have some of those units or all of those units transferred to other people. But unless that happens, the exchanger has exclusive benefit of the trust property, and nobody else has that benefit. And beneficial interest has no par value. The ownership of beneficial interest does not involve any kind of taxation or regulation. So the trust now owns and assumes full liability for the property it owns. Holders of beneficial interest can only claim a proportionate share of any distributions of funds or property made by the trust. Understand, a distribution from a pure trust organization is generally not a taxable event. Now, there's a basic universal principle, and it is ownership equals liability. The owner of property is always liable for damage caused by that property. Whether you're the owner, a trust is, a corporation is, it makes no difference. Ownership equals liability, and the reverse is true. Liability equals ownership. So the less you own, the less your personal liability. If you own nothing, then you have no personal liability. Ownership equals liability. Now, understand, if the government is looking to come after you for something, the government will generally look for your liabilities because it's much easier to find your liabilities than your assets. And since ownership equals liability, the reverse is true. So find your liability, you can draw a straight line over to your assets. That's how you learn where your assets are. But if you own nothing, you have no personal liability. And on that level, you become effectively invisible. With respect to a pure trust, the exchanger gives up legal control of and personal liability for trust-owned property. Now, the legal definition of legal control is the ability to buy, sell, or hypothecate property. Hypothecate means to borrow against. So the ability to buy, sell, or borrow against property is the definition of legal control. When property is owned by a pure trust, the pure trust has the ability to sell the property, okay, or borrow against the property, But the exchanger no longer has that ability because the exchanger doesn't have legal control. A properly administered pure trust organization will utilize management agreements with the exchanger to provide the exchanger with practical control over trust-owned property. Let me give you an example. Let's say you set up a pure trust and you put your house and land in it. Okay. Now, once that's done, the house and the land is owned by the trust, and you hold the beneficial interest in the trust. Okay. But you don't own the property anymore. The trust owns the property. Okay. Now, once the trust has been created, let's say I'm the fiduciary owner. Okay. And so I have the job of administering the trust for your benefit. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to issue a warranty deed and have the property transferred, the ownership of the property transferred in the public record from your name to the trust's name. Now, I always recommend when you name a trust, don't use your own name or your family name or the word trust, simply because you don't have to, and doing so compromises the privacy of the trust. So I prepare a warranty deed. I send it to you. You sign it. You have your signature notarized. You take it down to the recorder's office. The recorder then processes it and records the trust as the new owner of the property. The actual recorded deed goes to the fiduciary owner and is kept with the original trust documents in the trust binder. At that point, the trust will issue a contract to you, hiring you as general manager of the trust. Your job is to take care of the property, keep it in good condition. Okay, mow the lawns. Something breaks, fix it. But understand, you work for the trust. You do not own the property. Okay, you work for the trust. Okay, so you have a contract, and in any contract, there has to be consideration. So your consideration in this case is that you and your family get to live there rent-free. You have gone from being the owner of the property with liability to being a worker, a tenant, if you will, with no liability. So now you have practical control over the property. You get to live there. Okay, you want to paint the kitchen wall, you can do that. You want to have a party, you can do that. Okay, you get to live there. You have practical control over the trust, but you can't sell the property. You can't borrow against it because you don't have legal control. But now, if somebody's coming after you and they want to go after you, they cannot go after the property because you don't own it. It's not your property. And for that reason, the property is now protected from any claims or grievances against you. Let's say you put a vehicle into one of these trusts. The vehicle, once it's in the trust, the certificate of title gets filled out by the fiduciary owner and filled out by the exchanger, and then the exchanger takes it down to the Department of Motor Vehicles, gets the title reissued in the name of the trust. Once this is done, the trust then issues a lease agreement to you, giving you practical control of the vehicle. But it's a lease agreement. You just lease it. You don't own it. So if anybody has a claim against you, they can't go after the vehicle because it's not your vehicle. But you have practical control over the vehicle. This is a nutshell explanation of the difference between legal and practical control. And as long as legal control is properly addressed by the trust itself is impenetrable from attack. All right, we're going to take another break here. 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. We'll be right back with more on Pure Trusts.
That's the first hour of the Global Freedom Report. You stay tuned. More coming up in moments. This program is sponsored by Freedom Bound International. It's AM 870, The Answer.
AM 870, The Answer. Southern California's only local news and talk station you can trust.
This is Larry Elder, and I'm here at my home with my friend Tomer, owner of Southwest Construction. Now, Tomer, you've done a whole lot of work on my home over the years. And right now we're standing in my driveway, and Tomer, after there was this massive series of rains in LA several years ago, the concrete outside my home literally erupted. You came over, put down these magnificent paving stones, and they still look fantastic.
Yes, Larry, I remember your old driveway out here. It was bumpy, tree roots underneath, and we came, pulled everything out, pulled everything away with bobcats, laid out the forms, and put in a new paving stone concrete. It looks beautiful.
Folks, I trust Tomer and Southwest Construction. They did a spectacular job on my home again and again and again. And I know you'll love the great job they'll do for you, too. 800-931-0000. 800-931-0000. Mention me and get 10% off. That's 800-931-0000. 800-931-0000.
You're great at protecting your data, but lots of places could still expose you to identity theft.
I thought it was safe.
If that happens, LifeLock gives you a U.S.-based restoration agent who will stick by your side from start to finish. Phone calls, filing documentation, preparing insurance claims, your agent handles it all. In fact, we're so confident restoration is guaranteed or your money back. Isn't it nice to have someone like that on your side? Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Let's go! You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at VaxAssist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Let's go! AM 870, The Answer. Find us at am870theanswer.com. Download our apps, stream us 24/7, or watch us at snc.tv.
With SRN News, I'm Mary Rose. This week, attention turns to the Federal Reserve.
The Fed will hold a two-day meeting starting on Tuesday, followed by an interest rate announcement on Wednesday. Many economists anticipate a rate cut, but the central bank faces challenges from presidential pressure to the latest economic reports. Inflation rose last month as August posted its biggest consumer price increase since January, and the job market has weakened with a sharp decline in hiring. Greg Clugston, Washington.
President Trump is making his second state visit to the UK this week. Trump will be accompanied by his wife, Melania. They'll arrive Tuesday. Wednesday, they'll be greeted by Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, before they are received by King Charles and Queen Camilla at Windsor Castle, where they will be staying. The President and First Lady will be taking part in many events while they're there. This is SRN News.
We all know the importance of good daily habits, whether it's getting outside, getting your steps in, stretching those limbs, or eating right. Doing it on the regular is key. That's why if you're dealing with everyday aches and pains, it's time to bring Relief Factor into your life. Head over to ReliefFactor.com or give them a call at 800-4RELIEF and get their 3-week quick start for just $19.95. Relief Factor is the daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Developed by a team of doctors, it uses a special formula of 4 natural ingredients. Relief Factor doesn't just mask the pain, it helps reduce or eliminate it. In fact, the longer you take Relief Factor, the more effective it is to get your days going without any pain. See if we can get you out of pain by taking their 3-week quick start. It's only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Simply call 800-4RELIEF. 800, the number 4RELIEF, wherever you're having pain, neck, shoulders, hips, knees. Don't let it keep you from living the life you want to live. Make Relief Factor part of your daily routine. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. That's 1-800, the number 4RELIEF.
This is Pastor Scott Furrow of the Pastor Scott Show. As you may have heard, our friend and colleague Charlie Kirk was shot and killed on Wednesday. Please join me for a moment in prayer. Lord, we are grieving the loss of Charlie Kirk. Please comfort his wife, Erica, his young son and daughter and family and friends today. God, heal our nation, guard our campuses and communities, drive out hatred and political violence. Give wisdom to our leaders and protection to those who serve. In Jesus' name, amen. Share your prayers with us online at am870.info.
Severe numbness, tingling, a burning sensation in your feet and hands, or weakness that can take away your ability to walk or even use your arms. It's a nerve issue, neuropathy.
The numbness could become so severe that the patients don't feel where their legs are, so when they walk, they tend to fall because of the lack of sensation.
That's Dr. Shulian, the Nerve MD, who treats and relieves neuropathy, especially severe neuropathy. Call 877-88-NERVE. PPO and regular Medicare accepted. Get relief. Call 877-88-NERVE.
AM 870, The Answer. Distrust, discord is not what we are moving towards. AM 870, The Answer. Southern California's only local news and talk station you can trust.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of the Global Freedom Report. My question for all of you is, what are you doing to make the world in which you live a better place? All right, if you have any questions, if you have specifically questions about trust, and this is an invaluable lesson I'm giving you on today's show. So I urge you to take the time to ask your questions, because this information can be used to wrap ironclad walls of protection around your assets. And I've been doing this for 30 plus years, so I know what I'm talking about. If you want to be part of the show, if you have any questions, any comments, want to answer my question of the day, or anything else that's on your mind, give us a call toll free at 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752 if you would like to be on the air. We're talking about pure trust organizations, common law trusts that have existed long before the United States of America existed itself. And there is a basic principle, it's kind of a universal principle. They call it the law of principal and agent. Now, I want to remind you, if you just tuned in, when I talk about law, I'm talking about common law. When I talk about legal, I'm talking about things that my research has told me. But I am not an attorney. I am not offering you any kind of legal advice. Okay. Furthermore, okay, in addition to not being an attorney, okay, I want you to understand that what I do from my own research, from my own understanding, and from my extensive knowledge of trusts and pure trust organizations. Let me tell you, okay, that I lost the thought. Okay, not a problem. But I do want you to know, what I wanted to tell you is that I have taught attorneys about common law and common law pure trust. So I know how to speak legalese, but I'm not an attorney. I want you to get that. Now, having said that, again, if you have any questions, comments, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. The law of principal and agent works like this. An agent cannot be held liable for actions taken in good faith on behalf of the principal. An agent cannot be liable for action in good faith on behalf of the principal. Now, good faith means that the agent has acted within his or her prescribed duties. I've got some real property, and I hire you to be a gardener. Your job is take care of the garden, keep the soil properly watered and irrigate, get rid of the weeds as necessary, keep the landscaping, proper. While you're doing your job, you accidentally knock over a flower pot and it breaks. You are acting in the capacity as of your legitimate responsibilities as a gardener. Therefore, even though I might be irritated, I can't sue you for breaking the flower pot because you were acting in good faith when it happened. Now, let us say, same scenario, you work for me, you're a gardener. I go to the grocery store, get some food and such. I come back and I find out that the front door to the house has been painted plaid. And I ask around and I find out you did it. Now, painting my house is not part of your duties as gardener. Therefore, I can hold you liable. And if you don't repaint my house so that it's back the way it was, I could sue you. Because your actions with painting the front door, notwithstanding the fact that you painted them plaid, your actions were in bad faith. That's the meaning of good faith and bad faith. And in life, you always want to be an agent. Because if you are acting as an agent, you do not carry liability. Now understand, if you behave badly, if you commit fraud, if you commit violence, if you do things, that are unlawful, or that are harmful, intentionally harmful, then all of the protections that you might have had otherwise are lost, because by your behaving in bad faith, you have violated the fundamental principles of everything. These principles are based upon your behaving properly and in good faith. Now, having said that, if you do behave in good faith, there are many things that can protect you and your rights. Among them, common law pure trust organizations. The most common types of assets that are generally placed into a pure trust organization, they're not the only types of assets, but they're the most common. They are real property, vehicles, and businesses. Now, real property means land and structures on land, and that's it. That's all that is real property. Everything else is not real property. Vehicles are pretty self-descriptive. So real property, vehicles, and businesses are most commonly what are placed into pure trust organizations. And the way real property goes into a pure trust is there are two schedules on a trust, Schedule A and Schedule B. Schedule A is for real property. So you put the legal definition of the property on Schedule A, and then you sign it, you seal it. Your common law seal is your right thumbprint. You sign it, you seal it, you date it. You have two witnesses sign it, seal it, and date it. And then by your action of getting that signed and witnessed document in to the fiduciary owner, you have transferred the real property into the trust, which now owns the property. You have received back the beneficial interest in the trust, which means the trust exists to manage that real property for your benefit. Vehicles. Vehicles are not real property, so you would use Schedule B when you're putting vehicles into trust. And the legal description of a vehicle is the year, the make, the model, and the vehicle identification number. Year, make, model, VIN. If you're putting a boat into trust, then it doesn't have a vehicle ID number. It has what's called a hull ID number, HIN. But in any case, it's always the year, the make, the model, and either the VIN or the HIN. depending upon what it is that you're putting into trust. Then the trust owns that property for your benefit. You get a lease agreement. So now if you're pulled over, you carry in the glove compartment a copy of the registration in the name of the trust. And if the cop asks you why you have the vehicle because it's not registered to you, you tell him, I lease it. You can show him a copy of the lease. And he'll be fine with that. Now, businesses are a little bit more involved. Okay. The legal description of a business is the name of the business followed by the words, including payables and receivables. Now, there may be other things you're going to put in there. You might want to put in a computer or a series of computers or office desks or things like that. But the name of the business and the payables and receivables is what it takes to put the business into trust. Now, a pure trust is a common law trust. It does not have any kind of statutory numbers. It doesn't have an EIN. So it cannot open up banking. Well, if you have a business in trust, the business is presumably making money. So the question is, what do you do with the money if the trust cannot have banking? We suggest you set up an LLC and a particular type of LLC, a South Dakota LLC set up as a single member LLC. Now understand, an LLC is a type of corporation. It is owned by its members. An LLC can have any number of members, but if an LLC has 2 or more members, it is treated like a corporate partnership. And there are a lot of things you have to do. K-1 forms every quarter and 1060, 1065s and 1041s and all kinds of stuff that you have to do bureaucratically. But a single member LLC is considered by the government and by the IRS to be a disregarded entity. That is their term, not mine. There are actual federal forms that say, what type of entity is this? And one of the check boxes will say disregarded entity, and that's what a single member LLC is. Also, a subchapter S corporation is also a disregarded entity. As a disregarded entity, the LLC has no reporting requirements, no returns it needs to file. Okay, it doesn't need to do the kind of things that a corporate partnership would have to do. However, it is what is called a pass-through entity. And what that means is, it's a taxation term. It means that if the LLC earns taxable income, that taxable income is charged to the single owner of the LLC. Now, understand, not all revenue is income. Income is a profit or a gain from a transaction. I buy something for $1, I sell it for $2, I have made $1 in income. Okay, so just so you understand, not all revenue is automatically income. The other thing is that just because something is income does not automatically mean it is taxable income. Now, I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not an accountant. I can't give you legal advice on what is taxable and what is not. But I can tell you that in general, attorneys and accountants are trained to treat all revenue as taxable income. Okay. Most people don't want to do their own taxes, so they hire an accountant or an attorney, and the accountant or attorney will frequently fill out a return and volunteer the client to owe that tax. Where that tax may not have been inherently taxable, it has become taxable by voluntary compliance. Now, I'm not saying all attorneys are like that. I'm not saying all accountants are like that, but I've met both, okay, who have done that type of thing. So the thing about the LLC is the LLC will be hired by contract by the trust that owns the business. Okay, the contract will hire the LLC as a financial management agent. The LLC will then open up a bank account with its EIN, and that account will be used to hold money that belongs to the trust that comes in from the business. And that account will be used to pay for expenses associated with the business held by the trust. That is how businesses can use the LLC to handle their finances. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back with more on pure trusts after these words.
More about freedom and your phone calls right after this.
Are you ready to awaken to the truth? Birthright, Born Free, Live Free is the award-winning documentary shaking audiences across America. This powerful film uncovers how government overreach, global control, and the erosion of personal freedoms are threatening our God-given rights. It's not conspiracy, it's history, law, and truth exposed like never before. Join us for a special upcoming screening September 20th at 11:30 a.m. at Film Alley in Georgetown, Texas, outside of Austin. Doors open at 11 a.m. For tickets and other upcoming screenings taking place throughout the nation, visit birthrightthemovie.com. Don't miss this opportunity to be informed, inspired, and ignited. Birthright, Born Free, Live Free, because freedom isn't free and silence is surrender.
This is Dr. David Kennedy, working to expose the dangers of fluoride and the harm it's doing to our nation. And you're listening to the Global Freedom Report with Brent Johnson.
Whatever we ask the minister, he says is an administrative question for you. And whatever we ask you, you say is a policy question for the minister. How do you suggest we find out what's going on?
Yes. I do see that there is a real dilemma here. In that, while it has been government policy to regard policy as the responsibility of ministers and administration as the responsibility of officials, the questions of administrative policy can cause confusion between the policy of administration and the administration of policy, especially when responsibility for the administration of the policy of administration conflicts or overlaps with responsibility for the policy of the administration of policy.
They're watching my house and they're tapping my telephone. I don't trust nobody, but I'm much too scared to be on my own. And the income tax director has got his beady eyes on me.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. We have a special show today. I am teaching you about pure trust organizations, and if you learn what these are about, you will find ways to substantially reduce your personal liability, protect your assets from liens, levies, judgments that might come up against you, and help you to protect your right to property in a way that is unparalleled. If you have questions or if you have comments or you would like to talk with me, the toll-free number is 866-870-KRLA. It's 866-870-5752. If you want to go on the air, you can also go to globalfreedomreport.us. There is a live chat room there. You can ask questions in the chat room, and you can also ask questions over at am870theanswer.com. They have a chat room there as well. If you have any questions or comments that you would like to send in to me, or you want to call 866-870-5752, I would love to speak with you. Before we go back to Pure Trust, I have one other comment. Okay, we just heard the ad about Birthright, Born Free, Live Free. This weekend, Saturday, September 20th, there will be a showing in Georgetown, Texas at 11:30 in the morning. I will be there. So if you want to meet me, I will be there. You can ask me questions, pick my brain, okay? Though, you know, you can pick my brain, but leave it when you're done with it. And it's a great movie. It's a tremendous movie. It will expose so much of what has happened to undermine the rights of a one-time free people in the United States of America. That's this Saturday, September 20th, 11:30 in the morning. For details, go to globalfreedomreport.us or go to Birthright the Movie, and you can get all kinds of information and get tickets as well. So I hope to see you there. Okay. Additionally, there are showings of the movie coming up in Spokane, Washington on October 1st and Orlando, Florida on October 18th. So we're talking about pure trust and how pure trust reduce liability. Well, if you have a business, frequently setting up multiple trusts can substantially reduce liability even more. This is a technique that these trusts allow for, and they're it's a very, very useful technique. I had a client who was a farmer up in Minnesota. He set up 4 pure trusts. In the first one, he put the farm business, the name of the business, the payables, the receivables. In the second trust, he put the real property, the land and structures in which the business had been operating. So the land, the house, the barns, okay, any of the structures there. In the third trust, he put the heavy equipment, the backhoes, the trailers, the tractors, all that heavy equipment that's associated with running a farm. And in the fourth trust, he put the livestock. So he had 4 trusts. Now, once these trusts were set up and their respective properties were put inside those trusts, the trusts that owned the real property, the equipment, and the livestock leased those to the trust that owned the farm. So now the farm got to operate on the land, use the heavy equipment, and graze the livestock. But if somebody decided they had a claim or a grievance against the farm, they can go after the farm, but they could not go after the real property, the heavy equipment, or the livestock, because the farm did not own those. Therefore, the only thing they could go after would be the business itself. Okay, which would be like, the payables, receivables, things like that. But they couldn't go after any of that other material. I'll tell you a second story. I had a client who was a dentist. He set up 2 trusts, one for the dental practice, the name of the practice, the payables, the receivables. The other was for all of that heavy equipment, the diamond drills, which, by the way, are real diamonds. The diamond drills, the x-ray machines. He had $500,000 in equipment that was associated with his dental practice. So he took all that equipment and put it into a separate trust. And then the trust that owned the equipment leased it back to the trust that owned the dental practice. He was hired to run the dental practice. So he was the effective boss of the practice, but he was just a worker. He didn't own the practice. He just worked there, which meant he carried no liability. Furthermore, if somebody did have a grievance against the dental practice, they couldn't go after the $500,000 in equipment because the practice did not own that equipment. It's kind of like if somebody was going after you, okay, and let's say you have a vehicle that's on financing, and they had a judgment against you. They couldn't take the finance vehicle because you don't own it. It's still owned by the finance company until you finish paying the loan. Therefore, they couldn't take it. I've actually seen that happen. So, using these trusts, you can completely reduce liability to a bare minimum. Trusts can conduct distributions. Distributions are always paid or given to the holders of beneficial interest proportional to their holdings. If you have 100 units, you get 100% of the distribution. If you have 50 units, you get half the distribution. Distribution could be money, it could be assets, doesn't matter. However, distributions from common law pure trust organizations are generally not taxable events. You think about that. If you have any questions or comments, give me a call, 866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. We're going to take a break. We will be right back with more on pure trust right here in the Global Freedom Report.
We'll be back in a moment. You're listening to the Global Freedom Report.
A common law pure trust organization is the most powerful asset protection device available. Pure trusts have been around in the USA since 1790, when Patriot Patrick Henry created the first one. Pure trusts establish ironclad protection for real property, vehicles, businesses, and just about anything else. A pure trust creates a wall of privacy over its assets, reduces personal liability, and protects property from attachment. Freedom Bound International has been creating pure trusts for over 35 years, and none of their trusts have ever been successfully attacked. Call today at 888-385-FREE. That number again is 888-385-3733. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us for information and applications for their pure trusts. Freedom Bound International, dedicated to the preservation of personal freedom, privacy rights, and the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Independence.
The answer. Breaking news.
California lawmakers are sending a bill to Governor Newsom's desk that would ban federal immigration officers from wearing masks. The new rule, if approved, would ban face coverings for both local and federal law enforcement, along with other officials from different states working in California. The governor has a month to decide whether to sign the bill or give it a veto. It's unclear how or if the state could enforce the ban. Larry Marino on The Answer with breaking news and talk you can trust.
Are you living with pain? You don't need surgery to live pain-free. Dr. Mark Darrow and Dr. Thomas Grove at the Stem Cell Institute can help you get active again. Get a free phone consultation with the doctor's staff and request your free book, Stem Cell and Platelet Therapy, 800-300-9300, 800-300-9300, or stemcellinstitute.com, 800-300-9300. And listen to the show Living Pain-Free, Saturdays at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 5 p.m. on AM 870, The Answer.
Jennifer Horn here, and the Southern California half-price tuition program is going on right now. Enroll your child or grandchild in an outstanding private school with strong academics, extracurricular activities, and the same principles you teach at home. You pay half the regular tuition, and we pay the rest for you. It's the half-price tuition program. See the list of participating schools now. First come, first served. Go to am870.info right now. That's am870.info. Town Hall 2025 Conservative Forum is coming up October 19th at the Hyatt Regency in Orange County.
Grant and Jen here. We have a great lineup of conservative speakers ready to tell us what's on their minds, like gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton about Prop 50.
This is banana republic stuff. To elect a Democrat to Congress after these new maps go into effect, there'll be at 190,000 Democrat votes. It will take 1.52 million Republican votes. That's what President Trump has taught us. Fight, fight, fight.
We'll also have CNN's Scott Jennings, Live PD TV's Mark Lamb, Assemblyman Carl DeMaio, Sonia Shaw, Sheriff Alex Villanueva, Chris DeGaulle, Larry Elder, and more, with a VIP lunch and after-show meet and greet.
That's Town Hall 2025, Sunday, October 19th at Hyatt Regency, Orange County. Sponsored by Reagan Gold Group. Get your tickets now at am870.info. That's am870.info.
Sponsored in part by Integrity Comfort Systems.
At National Geographic Society, we believe in the power of wonder. It drives us to explore, pushes us to see the world differently, moves us to action. And we believe that today, wonder is more essential than ever. Wow. That's why we're supporting a new generation of explorers to ask big questions, make breakthroughs, and bring the future closer. Wonder awaits. Will you join us? Visit natgeo.org/wonder.
Read the latest headlines on our website, am870theanswer.com.
This is Lord Christopher Monckton, and if you want the truth about climate change, tune in to the Global Freedom Report.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. I'm your host, Brent Johnson. If you would like to be part of the show, the toll-free number is 866-870-KRLA. That's 866-870-5752. Our question for you: what are you doing to make the world in which you live a better place? Now, I'll tell you something. When I ask a question like that, it doesn't matter whether you answer me or not, because I know that you have to think about it. You are thinking about it. You are considering it, because you can't help it. When you ask a question, that's what the brain does. I'd love to hear from you what your answers are. But whether I hear from you or not, I know that you will think about it. What are you doing to make the world in which you live a better place? And we have Bill calling in from LA. Okay, Bill, welcome to the show. You are on the air.
Thank you very much, sir. I do appreciate it. Is it Glenn or Ben?
It's Brent.
Oh, Brett. B-R-E-T-T. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate
wait. B-R-E-N-T.
Oh, Brent. Thank you. Hey, that's a very sophisticated name. I like that. That's in Brentwood. If you lived in the woods, it would be Brentwood, which is a place in California, very high-priced property. Just as a general question, because I didn't have anything specific, but you brought up a very good point. We live in a world where it seems like people want to litigate and sue you for everything you've got. You don't have to have much, and somebody wants to hammer you. So I'm wondering about just putting average things like a car and a house in a trust. How to go about that? Now I'm in California, so maybe it's quite different from where you are.
No,
But
it actually is. I have a lot of clients in California. Okay, and these trusts are tremendously effective. And so this is the reason I'm giving this course here, because I want people to understand there really are options in today's litigious world, where if you, like what I've done with myself, everything I teach you, I've done myself as the original guinea pig. And I am left alone because there's nothing they can do. You know, I have a client who he does installations on pool systems, and years ago he did an installation of a heater. It was done perfectly well and fine. Several years later, somebody died in that pool, and the lawyers decided they were going to go after everybody who's ever been involved with that pool. And so they had depositions and everything. When they got to my client, because I have trained him properly, when he got to my client, by the time he finished answering their questions, they removed him as a party to the action because he had nothing that they could take. They wanted liability so they could take what people had. He had nothing they could take, so they got rid of him. They didn't want him in the lawsuit. It was as simple as that. So yes, the fact you're in California does not in any way undermine the effectiveness of these trusts. My suggestion is that you call us off the air and maybe you set up a time to have a consultation where I can go into detail with you about your situation. But absolutely, these trusts that's exactly what they do. They help you reduce or even eliminate liability. And when that happens, the people who want to go after you will leave you alone because there's nothing you have that they can take.
Wonderful. That's that 888 number, right?
That's correct. That's the 888-385-3733 number.
And you will be available at that number?
So, well, you have to set up an appointment with me. I'm not going to answer the phone, but yes,
okay.
I will be. That's exactly how you'll get through to me. Yes.
Okay, well, good. Thank you very much. I'll just keep listening. I do appreciate you being on the air and what you're doing because we do live in a litigious society, sadly.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much for the question, Bill. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Bye-bye.
866-870-KRLA, 866-870-5752. The topic is Pure Trust Organizations. I want to tell you about the Protector. Now, a trust is a right of property held by one party for the benefit of another. If you set up the trust is going to benefit you. Okay. The Protector is one of the parties in the trust, and the role of the Protector is to ensure that the trust acts for your benefit. That's why the trust exists. Now, the Protector doesn't need any particular special skills. There are three things the Protector does. One is keeps a copy of the trust, an ongoing copy of the trust. Number two is from time to time, if you have things you would like the trust to do, you don't get to ask the trust directly. You would have your Protector ask the trust. This is because if you got to ask the trust directly, you would be considered to have legal control of the trust. And if you have legal control of the trust, all of its protections will fall. That is the key element. If legal control is properly addressed, the trust is impenetrable. So the reason you have a Protector is that if you have things you would like the trust to do, you have your Protector ask for that to be done. Your Protector has the power to fire the fiduciary owner. So unless what you're asking for, unless what the Protector is asking for would actually harm the trust, the fiduciary owner has no reason not to do what he's asked to do. And so the Protector should be, it cannot be a relative. It should be not a relative of the exchanger. It should be somebody the exchanger trusts implicitly. And if at some point the exchanger has a falling out with the Protector, he can have the Protector removed and have somebody else put in the role of Protector. So that is the role of the Protector, to ensure that the trust always acts for your benefit. The Internal Revenue Service admits that it cannot tax property owned by a common law pure trust organization unless the trust engages in a taxable event. Now, I will tell you, most attorneys will not advise you to create a common law trust because it would represent some kind of conflict of interest on their part. A properly administered common law trust is considered to be a foreign trust as defined by Title 26 U.S. Codes, Section 7701A, subsection 31. This is the Internal Revenue Code, and it says certain types of foreign trusts are not inherently subject to the income tax. Now, again, I'm not a tax attorney, and there are always things you can do. You may not be subject to the income tax, but then you can do something that makes you subject to the income tax. So, you have to be careful not to do those types of things. However, fundamentally, a common law trust is considered by the IRS to be a foreign trust. All right, let's go to Pat from Mission Viejo. Pat, welcome to the show. You're on the air. Pat, are you there? I do not hear Pat. Okay, in the studio, do you still have Pat there? Hello, hello. Okay, I tell you what, if you find Pat, we'll go back to Pat in a minute. Let's go over to Mark from Ventura. Mark, welcome to the show. You are on the air. Hello, Mark. Okay, I don't know if we're having trouble. We got line 3, Pat, and line 4, Mark, and I can't hear either one of them. So I'm not sure what's going on.
Mark, I'm here. This is Mark. Can you hear me?
All right, now I hear you. I don't know what happened. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, that's okay. Well, to answer the first question, and then I'll have another. I'm disabled, and to do something good, I used to pass out. I printed little leaflets, and I took about 20 to 30 with me each time I went out, and it informed people about the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012. So hopefully, I helped to make things better. And people told me, don't do this, that they'll make a note of you, all that. I didn't care. I'm disabled. But my question is, I'm disabled, and I remember getting a notice that once I turn 55, which I am more than 55 now, like if my mom leaves me a house, if she passes away, the government can attach to it because, they were paying for my Medi-Cal for me being disabled. I had a car accident at a very young age that left me disabled. Is this trust something that can protect my mother leaving me something when she passes away?
Absolutely, yes. Okay. If your mother was to put the house into one of these trusts, when the trust is created, one of the things that we will ask you is about successorship. If something happens to her, who gets the beneficial interest in the trust? And that would be you, presumably. Okay. Then if something happened to her, you would become the beneficial interest holder of the trust, but the property would remain in trust. Because of that, there would be no death taxes, no probate, no inheritance taxes, nothing of the sort. The trust would own the property, but you would now be the one who can benefit from the property. And nothing would have, there would be nothing to do with the IRS in this at all. It would have nothing at all to do with the IRS. And yes, that would do exactly what you just asked about. Mark,
so I should probably call you at another day at that other number after I speak to my mother a little bit about this.
That would be good. I do have to take another break, Mark. Hang on a second. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back after these words.
Sure.
Stay with us. More truth and freedom right around the corner.
Freedom Bound International is a common law service center specializing in asset protection. For more than 35 years, they've helped people free themselves from government control. Their common law pure trust organization successfully protects property from confiscation, claims, liens, and judgments. None of their trusts have ever been successfully attacked. The Private Interest Foundation holds assets internationally, distributes funds privately, and does so anonymously. Their stealth LLCs let you set up banking as privately as possible. They offer books, CDs, DVDs, and a variety of products and services designed to teach you how to live free from Big Brother. Call them today at 888-385-FREE. That number again is 888-385-3733. Or visit their website at freedomradio.us. Freedom Bound International, dedicated to the preservation of personal freedom, privacy rights, and the principles enshrined in the Declaration of Independence.
This is Michael Bolden with the 10th Amendment Center, standing up for your liberty through decentralization in the Constitution. You are listening to Brent Johnson and the Global Freedom Report.
Make no mistake, my brothers. They will force their cure upon us. The only question is, will you join my brotherhood and fight? Or wait for the inevitable genocide? Who will you stand with?
9/11, 9/11, what went down with Building 7? Ever since that fateful day, I Civil rights have disappeared. A global fascist state draws near, and our freedom slips away.
And welcome back to the Global Freedom Report. We have Mark on the line. We'll get to you in a second, Pat. I see that you called back. Mark, so I didn't want to cut you off, okay, because of the break, but did you get the information you needed? Do you have the phone number to call? 888-385-3733.
Yes, I do. And thank you very much. And you mentioned the Senate Modernization Act, I think 2 weeks ago. And I remember I used to go out there and make little printed up things, and I gave them to people. And if you're nice to people, usually they'll listen. Not many rejected me, so I keep doing my little part here.
Every time you do something like that, you plant seeds, and I promise you, those seeds bear fruit. You may not know who or what has resonated to what you had to say and had to offer, but I promise you, what you say and what you have to offer makes a difference. Guaranteed.
Well,
thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you very much. God bless.
All right. Pat, I'm glad that I saw you had a bit of a Bluetooth issue, and I'm glad you got back on the line. Welcome.
I hope you can hear me this time.
Yes, I hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. I have established, my husband and I, a special needs trust. It's irrevocable for the benefit of another person. And that person, the reason the condo was bought was to keep him off the streets, being homeless. Since then, he is not able to live in the condo, and SSI said I had to put it in an irrevocable trust. So my question is quite involved. When he passes away, there is a beneficiary following, but I believe that due to all his hospitalizations, the condo will need to be sold and paid back Medicare and Medi-Cal, and this is California. Yeah.
Okay.
Very.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Okay. I bless you for asking the question, but this is too complex for me to give you a quick on-the-air answer. My suggestion would be to set up a consultation. Okay. And how to do that, you just call the 888 number and you'll get the information as to what you need to do to set that up. But that way I would have dedicated time that I could discuss with you, okay, the situation. The other thing you might want to do is to send me a copy of the trust, which I would keep absolutely confidential, okay? But that way I could evaluate the trust and then comment to you on ways that you might be able to extricate yourself from the undesirable aspects of that trust. I couldn't say without seeing the trust. But the first step I would suggest is if you give us a call off the air.
Okay, and what number do I call?
888-385 888-385-3733.
Okay, and set up for a consultation. Okay.
Did you get the number?
688-385-3733.
It's not 688. It's 888.
Oh, 888. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Okay, 888-385-3733.
That'll do it.
Thank you so much.
You
Appreciate
are
it.
very welcome. God bless and thank you. I'll look forward to hearing from you.
And God bless you. We need it. Thank you.
All right, excellent. And by the way, for those of you, if you call tomorrow, you'll probably get somebody. If you call today or tonight, you'll just have to leave a message, and she'll call you back tomorrow. Okay, but if you call tomorrow, you'll probably actually get her. And that number, in case any of you missed it, is 888-385-3733. That is off the air. That is not on the air. If you're interested in learning more about Pure Trusts, I offer a 6-week course on how to act as a fiduciary owner for a Pure Trust. This course teaches you about common law and goes into greater detail about the mechanics of Pure Trusts, why they are so effective in protecting assets, and how to manage and administer such trust. The number to call again for more information is 888-385-FREE, 888-385-3733. What are you willing to do to protect and preserve your liberty? And what aren't you willing to do to protect and preserve that same liberty? And at the end of the day, would you be proud to tell your friends, your family, your loved ones, your children, what you did today? Did you tell the truth? Did you keep your word? Did you honor your agreements? If not, then please correct any trespass on your brother or sister and do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow is too late. On next week's show, we are going to visit with a scriptural archaeologist who has traveled the world revealing the truth about biblical history. This is an amazing show. You're going to love this. Noah's Ark, Sodom and Gomorrah, and the Ark of the Covenant are some of the topics we will discuss with our guests. Also, we will bring you another invaluable edition of Lessons in Liberty, where you learn really useful things they never taught you in public school. And we will embark on our weekly journey into the dirty world of mind control and behavioral manipulation on Propaganda 101. That's all coming up on next week's edition of the Global Freedom Report. Do not miss it. By the way, okay, if you have missed any part of the show, you can always go to globalfreedomreport.us, where the shows are archived, and you can download the archive of the show or just listen and watch. It's a live stream. You can watch the show itself. You want to see what I look like, okay? If you're listening on radio, you're not going to see what I look like. But if you check out Global Freedom Report, you have that opportunity. Be sure to visit the Freedom Bound International website at www.freedomradio.us to learn practical ways to live free from government regulation. Or you can just call us toll-free at 888-385-3733. That's 888-385-FREE. We can show you how to protect your liberty, property, and privacy from government intrusion. Tune in next week for another edition of the Global Freedom Report. I'm Brent Johnson, reminding you that freedom is your birthright. It is a gift from God. Understand how priceless that is. A gift from God. Treat it accordingly. God bless you all.
Liberty. Open your eyes and you will see that America is still the land of the free. Right to life and liberty. Open your eyes and you will see that America is still the land of the free. Right to life and liberty.
The Global Freedom Report was sponsored by Freedom